ముందుగా ప్రియమైన విద్యార్థులకు మరియు వారి తల్లిదండ్రులకు నమస్కారం. నా పేరు కె వెంకన్న జూనియర్ కాలేజ్ చైర్మన్. నేను ఈ రోజు 10th క్లాస్ విద్యార్థులను దృష్టిలో పెట్టుకొని మాట్లాడడం జరుగుతుంది. అది ఏమిటనగా, మనందరికీ తెలుసు, గత 2 సంవత్సరాలుగా కరోనా కారణంగా విద్యార్థులు ఎటువంటి పరీక్షలు రాయకుండానే పై తరగతులు పంపడం జరుగుతుంది. ఫలితంగా ఐఐటి జేఈఈ మరియు నీట్ లాంటి జాతీయ స్థాయి పరీక్షలను సాధించడం కష్టతరం అవుతుంది. దీనిని అధిగమించడానికి మరియు 10వ తరగతి పరీక్షలో అత్యధిక మార్కులు సాధించడానికి నేను మీ ముందుకు కె వెంకన్న జూనియర్ కాలేజ్ ప్లాట్ఫామ్ ద్వారా అనుభవజ్ఞులైన అధ్యాపకులచే ఉచిత వీడియో క్లాసులు, హ్యాండ్ రిటన్ నోట్స్ మరియు గత ప్రశ్నపత్రాల సమాధానాల విశ్లేషణ ఇవ్వబడును. కాబట్టి నేను విద్యార్థులకు చెప్పదలుచుకున్నది ఏంటంటే, ఈ ఉచిత వీడియో క్లాసులను మరియు హ్యాండ్ రిటన్ నోట్స్లను క్లాస్ రూమ్ లో కూర్చొని చదువుకున్నంత సీరియస్ చదువుకోవాలను. ఇంకొకటి ఏమిటనగా, ఈ యొక్క క్లాసులు విన్న వెంటనే అర్థం చేసుకొని ప్రాక్టీస్ చేయవలను. ప్రాక్టీస్ చేయడం అంటే కేవలం చదవడం కాదు, పేపర్ మీద రాయవలను. అలాగైతే గుర్తుండిపోతుంది. దీంతో పాటు మీ యొక్క నాలెడ్జ్ ని పరీక్షించుకున్న కొరకు త్వరలో ప్రీ ఫైనల్ పరీక్షలు కూడా నిర్వహించబడు. ఈ యొక్క అవకాశాన్ని సద్వినియోగం చేసుకోవాలని 10th చదివే విద్యార్థులకు విజ్ఞప్తి చేస్తున్నాను.
Now here we are here to discuss the fifth and the foremost important lesson of social studies, Indian rivers and the water resources. Why should we learn in the social studies about the Indian rivers and water resources? Because what are the most important basic necessity of life is water, and we need to understand the place where we live in, the country where we live in, the country where we are residing. We need to understand the natural features of our own country. So let us focus on the Indian rivers and the water resources. As for the existence of a man, food is equally important. As such, even water is equally important. So don't you think we should understand about our vibrant country, what are the water resources and what are the rivers we have in the country? So let's go into the depth of Indian rivers and water resources. Now, what is Indian resource and water resources? Otherwise it is called as drainage system. What is drainage system? I know drainage is a word which comes differently, but believe me, what is drainage system? You know what is drainage system? Other words in drainage system is always called as Indian drainage system is divided into as well divided into Himalayan rivers. What Himalayan rivers? Always remember, what is drainage system? Complete flow of Indian rivers. The complete flow of Indian rivers is called as the Indian drainage system. So now let us understand what is Indian drainage system. In Indian drainage system, we have Himalayan rivers and the peninsular rivers. Now first focus on the Himalayan rivers. What are Himalayan rivers? Then we'll get into peninsular rivers. And Himalayan rivers are otherwise called as even perennial rivers. What do you mean by perennial rivers? Where the water is continuously flowing and the water does not get dried up. There is a continuous flow throughout the year, the 365 days. Those rivers are called as the perennial rivers. Now Himalayan rivers are as well the perennial rivers. Himalayan rivers are divided into 3. 1, 2 and 3. And what are those 3? The first one being the Indus system, and the second one being the Ganga system, and the third one being the Brahmaputra system. Remember, Indian Himalayan rivers are divided into 3. What are they? The Indus system, the Ganga system, and as well as the Brahmaputra system. So now let us understand Indian Himalayan rivers, the Indus system very well. So the Indian system, where does this Indus system originate from? It originates from the Kailash range of Tibet near Manas Sarovar, which is located in China. Kailash river, Manas Sarovar is located in the country China. So the Indus system originates from Kailash range of Tibet near Manas Sarovar and enters into the it always enters into the India. And which state does it enter? It enters through Jammu and Kashmir. And what are the main tributaries of Indus system? And now I use the word tributary. What do you mean by tributary? See, here I have written a stream of river. always a small stream of river which joins the bigger river, that is called as a tributary. Means what? For example, we are talking about the Indus system. See, what does Indus system have? Indus system originates from Kailash Manasarovar of the Tibet, and it enters into our country, into the state, from the state of Jammu and Kashmir. And what are the main tributaries? The main tributaries are Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi and Beas. So again, what is a tributary? What is a tributary? What did I say here? A stream of river, a small stream of river that joins or originates from a bigger river is always called as a tributary. Very true. Now we got through Indus system. Now let us get on to the Ganga system. What is Ganga system? Ganga originates from the Himalayas of the Gangotri glacier. I'll tell you, Ganga system has origin to two originates. One is from the Gangotri glacier, whereas it is called as the Bhagirathi. Other source is as Satopnath glacier. Ganga originates from two glaciers. What is the first one? Gangotri glacier, right? And the other one is the Satopnath glacier. Okay, Satopnath glacier towards Badrinath, which is called as Alaknanda. The Gangotri glacier is called as the Bhagirathi, and the Satopnath glacier, which originates from Badrinath, is called as Alaknanda. So where Alaknanda and Bhagirathi, both of them join together, and where do they join? They join at a place called as Devaprayag. They join at a place called as Devaprayag. There is no confusion. Very purely, Ganga system originates in the Himalayas. It originates into two glaciers, and the first one being the Gangotri, and Gangotri is called as the Bhagirathi, and the other glacier from Gangotri glacier you are getting Bhagirathi, and other source is the Satopnath glacier, where Alaknanda originates, and Alaknanda and Bhagirathi, both of them join at a common place which is called as Devaprayag. Okay, it's called as a Devaprayag. And what are the tributaries of Ganga? You know, the place where Ganga flows is also called as Indo-Gangetic Plain. It is almost the northern part of the country. So Ganga is located in the northern part of the country. So obviously, the whole of the region where Ganga flows is as well called as the Indo-Gangetic Plain. Okay. And now coming back to the third system, Brahmaputra, the third system which is called as the Brahmaputra system. Brahmaputra system originates in the Sangpo in Tibet. Again, this is as well in China. Brahmaputra system originates from Sangpo in the Tibet. It originates from the Kailash Manasarovar of the southern part of the Tibet. You will have to understand these things. They will remember these names, because there is always a probability that you might get them from 1 mark answer, as well as even the fill in the blanks also you might get. So where does Brahmaputra river, Brahmaputra system originate? Brahmaputra system originates from the Sangpo. T is silent here, T-S-A-N-G-P-O. Sangpo of Tibet. It originates from the Kailash range in Manasarovar of southern part of the Tibet. And now coming back, it enters, where does it enter into? As Indus system entered from Brahmaputra, entered from Jammu and Kashmir, where does Brahmaputra system enter into the India? Brahmaputra system enters into the India from Arunachal Pradesh, the northeastern part of the countries. Brahmaputra enters into our country from this Arunachal Pradesh, the northeastern part of the country, and it flows even other state as Assam. It flows into the Arunachal Pradesh and Assam. And what are the tributaries of Brahmaputra system? The tributaries of Brahmaputra system, I'll tell you one thing. I'll tell you one more thing, children. And when it enters Arunachal Pradesh, it is called as Siang. There might an objective come across. What is Brahmaputra river? Once it enters into the Arunachal Pradesh, what is it called as? When Brahmaputra enters into the Arunachal Pradesh, it is called as Siang. Yes, S-I-A-N-G. Brahmaputra, Arunachal Pradesh, when it enters Brahmaputra, the Brahmaputra system, when it enters into the Arunachal Pradesh, it is called as the Siang, and then as Dihang. Yes, you need to remember these names, because you might get into the objective 1 mark answer, as well as even to the fill in the blank. So you'll have to remember these names. Brahmaputra system enters into the Arunachal Pradesh when it enters into Arunachal Pradesh, it is known as Siang and Dihang. And after Arunachal Pradesh, it flows into the Assam, which is called as Lohit, L-O-H-I-T, Lohit. Okay, from there, from Assam, from Lohit, it is called as Brahmaputra. So what do we understand? In the Brahmaputra system, when it starts entering into from the Tibet, China, it is not called as Brahmaputra immediately. Once it enters into the Arunachal Pradesh, it is called as Siang, and from there it is called as Dihang, and in Assam it is called as Lohit, and from there it is called as the Brahmaputra system. So I think you understood very clear what is in the Indian drainage system is divided into Himalayan rivers as well as the peninsular rivers. Now we are focusing on the Himalayan rivers and Himalayan rivers. It's a small nutshell. What is it? Himalayan rivers are called as divided into three. What are the Indus system and the Ganga system as well as the Brahmaputra system. I think this part of the Himalayan rivers is very clear, and these all rivers are called as the perennial rivers. What do you mean by perennial rivers? Very true. The rivers which flow throughout the year, where the rivers, the water is never dried up, there is a continuous flow of river, continuous flow of water in the rivers, you call them as the perennial rivers. Right now, we'll get into the other system in peninsular rivers.
Hello friends, myself Sunil Kumar Badal. I have done my BTech from IIT Kanpur. Here at KVC, I am chemistry faculty. So, first of all, let me wish you all the best for your upcoming board examination. Here at KVC, we are the team of IITians, NITians and doctor to help you achieve your dream. So, what are you waiting for? Come and join us and fulfill your dream.
The next part of the lesson where the Indian drainage system is divided is we already listened and discussed about the Himalayan rivers. Now the next topic which comes across is the Indian drainage system, which is the second part. The physiographic division is the Indian peninsular systems. As I said, perennial rivers and non-perennial rivers. Himalayan rivers are perennial rivers. What do we mean by perennial rivers? I explained you. Where there is continuous flow of water and whole of the year, whatever might be the climatic conditions, the river never gets dried up. Those rivers are called as the perennial rivers, and these perennial rivers fall under Himalayan rivers. And now we are talking about the Indian peninsular system. And what is Indian peninsular system? Where the rivers are there and they keep on drying up based on the climatic conditions of the country. Now let's get into depth about the Indian peninsular system. And where are this Indian peninsular system? The Himalayan rivers generally we come across on the northern part of the country. When we talk about this Indian peninsular system, generally it comes at the south. I cannot even say that totally it falls on the southern part of the country, but Western Ghats divide the major peninsular rivers discharging their water into the Bay of Bengal as well as the Arabian Sea. Once the river originates from the particular places, at the end of the day, they get and discharge themselves into the oceans and oceans. Some of them might be into the Bay of Bengal and some of them into the Arabian Sea. Now gets back into the Indian peninsular system. What is the important river, Indian peninsular system? What are the important rivers we have in our country? We have Krishna, Godavari, Kaveri, Mahanandi. There are so many rivers. Now let's focus on the bigger rivers. Where did they originate and what are the tributaries and which states they flow across? And now, what do you say, like Godavari, Krishna, Kaveri and Mahanandi? For example, we have so many rivers, but Godavari, Krishna, Mahanandi, Kaveri, these are some of the important rivers in the Indian peninsular system. Okay. Now, let's focus on first the first river, Godavari. Where does Godavari originate from? Every river originates from a particular place and it flows toward the states. And so obviously we need to understand this as well, very importantly. Godavari originates from Trayambak near Nashik in Maharashtra and discharges into Bay of Bengal. What does that mean? Godavari is the river which originates in the Trayambak, a place near Nashik of Maharashtra, and it keeps on flowing in different states and finally merges into the Bay of Bengal. And what are the tributaries of Godavari? Tributaries of Godavari are Sabari, Indravati and Manjira. For example, these are the rivers. Okay, these are the tributaries. You'll have to remember the names of these tributaries because you might get them for 1 mark answer or even for the fill in the blanks. So we'll have to remember the names of the tributaries as well. Now completed Godavari, and now let's come back, now go back to the Krishna river. Krishna river originates from Mahabaleshwar, and what are the tributaries of Krishna river? The tributaries are Musi, Ghataprabha. Yes, you'll have to remember the names. The rivers of the Krishna are the tributaries of Krishna are Musi and Ghataprabha. And where does this Krishna river flow, in which states? Krishna river flows into Maharashtra, Telangana, Chhattisgarh as well as Andhra Pradesh. Okay, and now next when we go across one of the, I will not discuss all the rivers, but precisely I am focusing on 3 rivers, Godavari, Krishna and Kaveri. Okay, Kaveri is originated from Brahmagiri and it flows into the Karnataka as well as into Tamil Nadu. So this is something precisely about the Indian peninsular system. Okay, now the next, let's move on to the next topic of the lesson, water usage. Water usage, water is the basic necessity and amenity of any living being under the sun. It's not only the human beings, it might be the animals as well as the plants. So obviously without water, there is no living being under the sun that we can really survive. Water usage is the basic necessity of any human being. And how is the water being usaged? What is the usage of the water, and different ways how do we use the water? Let's discuss it very briefly, not getting into the depth, because I am targeting you the points in such a way that you can understand them point wise from the examination point of view and pen down in your examination and get good marks. I am not going to the depth of every lesson, but trying to give you a skeletal structure of all the lesson, covering the important topics but not leaving anything in the lesson. Okay children? Now getting back to the water use. How does we get water? We get water under the groundwater which is under the ground. I'll tell you, for example, you must be seeing near your houses in the summer somebody digging the borewell. So much amount of noise you get, and you go out and see what's happening. What is the sound we are getting out of the house? You go and see, but you will say that somebody is digging the borewell. So it's under surface water, the groundwater which is underneath the layers of the soil. You get that is, you have surface water, and the groundwater. Another one is the surface flows. The water which flows on the surface is surface water, and the water which is under the ground is called as the groundwater. So what are the ways we get water? 2 types of water flows we are getting. What are they? Surface flow as well as the groundwater. So surface flow, some water would flow as a surface flows through the streams. Some water which will be flowing through the surface as small streams, ponds, lakes, rivers. These all are called as a surface flow. The name itself says surface, the surface where it flows is called as a surface flows. So when you listen the word surface, what should you remember? Streams, lakes, rivers, ponds, etc. And what is the groundwater? Groundwater, how does groundwater get into this? Is there somebody who is digging and pouring the water inside, asking it to store? No, it's not like that. How does groundwater is being stored? Because of the heavy amount of the rains, the soil percolates, means it absorbs all the water into it and retains into it. Some portion of the rainfall percolates into soil and becomes groundwater. Some of the water, because of heavy rains, you get across because of this, obviously monsoon and all. Some of the water, the soil percolate, absorbs into it and retains into its groundwater. Tana yokka garbhamlo dachukuntundi neeruni. That is called as groundwater. So now water, again telling you children, how do we get water? 2 ways. Surface flow as well as the groundwater. What is surface flow? Where the water is available on the surface is called as surface flows. And what is that? It might be in the form of small streams, rivers, lakes, ponds, etc. And groundwater is always, how do we get groundwater? With the help of the monsoon, the soil percolates, absorbs all the water and retains it under the ground, and that water availability is called as the groundwater. And now how do and where do we use this water for? Where do we use this water? We use water for agriculture. We use water for domestic purpose, for animals and our usage, human beings usage as well. And the third one for the water for the industrial use. Every one of them are equally important. Water for human beings, survival, existence is important, and water for agriculture is important. When We all will have to serve, we all will have to eat. What are the basic necessities of life, children? Tell me. Let us not get into the luxuries. What are the basic requirements of any human being? Food, right? Cloth, very good, and shelter. These three are the basic requirements of any human being. So what food? How do we get food from? From agriculture. Doing cultivating the crops only we get the food, right? So obviously agriculture. So water does not grow on its agriculture does not grow on its own without water. So water, the first thing. As I said, the basic amenity first for human survival of anybody is food. So where do we get the food from? Agriculture. So how does agriculture come across? Without water, agriculture is not possible. So water for agriculture. And the next thing is water for domestic purpose, and water for domestic purpose, like we use water for washing, cleaning utensils, taking bath, whatnot, everything. Once we get up in the morning, we require water. Without water, nothing goes happen. So water for the usage of domestic animals with the human beings as well as the animals. And the third one, the most important one, water for industrial uses. So if you understand these basic things and elaborate your points when you're writing for water for agriculture, if you use the water properly, if the usage of water is being used properly, agriculture, you can get across even a second crop in 1 year only. Okay, so that we will read in depth also. Okay, water for egg. So whenever the question is being asked, what are the usages of the water? What will you say? Water we get from surface flows as well as the groundwater, and the water which is being generated from the surface flows as the groundwater we utilize for three purposes. What is that? Water for agriculture, water for domestic purpose and animals, and water for industrial use. Now we understood this Indian peninsula systems and water usage.